Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What If the Story Continued, Episode 2. This is an episode very long overdue, as I've spent a lot of time continuing to plan and write the following episodes. So, Episode 3 is also fully written, so that episode is probably coming very soon. Nevertheless, you're going to get all of it, because the story is continuing. In case you need a refresher, I would highly recommend going back and not only watching part 1 of What If the Story Continued, but watching the original story of what if Vader and Starkiller killed Palpatine and ruled the galaxy. This story, again, is very based on horror mystery. I tried some themes, and just remember that it's a horror mystery. There is brutality, there is scariness, there is violence. I mean, it's Star Wars, so there's always going to be violence, but it's going to be a little more horrific, shall we say. Just keep that in mind when continuing this series. If you're not into more gory, horror-esque stuff, it might not be for you. But if you are interested in seeing how the story continued, it definitely is for you. Without further ado, let's continue this series. We cut back to the Millennium Falcon as it prepares to jump into hyperspace, as Jaina and Anakin try to fight Chewie to stop him from leaving the station and their father. Chewie is just as upset as he roars at them, telling them that he doesn't want to leave Han behind more than any of them, but he couldn't let them both die. Anakin finally gives up and collapses into tears, while Jaina stands rebellious, refusing to allow Chewbacca to leave. But she can't stop him. Finally, with a look of determination, she heads into the other room. We cut to outside the Falcon, as we see its escape pod release and fire back towards the station, and then to Anakin Solo, who senses his sister's actions before Chewbacca hesitantly takes off into hyperspace. We cut back to Kip Duron and Han Solo, as they return to Duron's personal ship. Han is now in binders and disarmed of his weapon, unable to combat Duron in any way. We see the escape pod board the station as we see Jaina sneaking into the room. She analyzes the situation before taking cover as Kip turns around, sensing that something is off. Once he returns to what he was doing, Jaina decides to take a new approach. She pulls a small tracking device and throws it at the ship. Once Duron's ship exits the atmosphere and is out of sight, she races back to the Imperial hangar, where one of the 2 previous shuttles remain. She takes the shuttle for herself, and after getting a lead on Duron's route, jumps into hyperspace herself. We cut to one of the lower levels of Coruscant, where we see Dash Rendar, sneaking around, looking for somebody. We see that stormtroopers are everywhere down here as patrols, and while less fear-based in their methods, they are more common. We also see that the Empire is now enlisting alien troopers among humans. Thrawn, unlike Sidious, sees that accepting all races into the Imperial ranks can only serve as a benefit to the Empire's numbers. Another reason why many have accepted Thrawn's leadership much more than either of the Sith Lords. Cutting back to Dash, he runs into the Rodian he was looking for, and the Rodian quickly makes a run for it, to which Dash chases him, but not allowing Imperials to notice his pursuit. He finally catches up to his prey and tackles the Rodian to the ground as he shouts in pain, as for Dash to let him go. Dash finally snaps the Rodian out of it and tells him that he is wanted by the Shadow's Blade, which, if you remember, is the criminal syndicate formed by Maul and Luke following Crimson Dawn's betrayal, and now ruled by Luke following Maul's death. The Rodian pleads for mercy, and Dash responds with, "Don't you get it? When it comes to the Shadow's Blade, there is no mercy, only death." The Rodian cries out in fear, and Dash places a comforting hand on its back. "Hey, it's gonna be alright, man. You just gotta trust me. I'm gonna get you out of this." The Rodian begins to calm down, as Dash suddenly and quietly fires a blaster into the Rodian's heart, and puts him out of his misery as he mutters to himself, I'm sorry, but there are just some things far scarier than death. We cut to Ziost as we see Luke's starship, along with a stolen Star Destroyer, returning to the planet. We go down to the surface where we see that Luke has set up a small society on the dead planet, one built on terror and fear, but a safe haven for the Shadow's Blade and its Sith leaders. Luke exits his ship as he is met by Mara Jade, who asks almost as soon as he steps outside, "Did you get it?" Luke nods his head, and Mara simply gasps. "You actually found it." "One of them," Luke retorts. The two begin to walk together as Luke points to the Star Destroyer. Took the entire crew just to capture it, and more than half had to die in the process. "That is dangerous," Mara muttered. Finally, she decides to speak up. "You never told me what it was exactly." "It's the future, Mara," Luke declares. "You don't need to know anything more than that, and the fact that it will be staying aboard the destroyer. You'd regret it if you ever dared step foot aboard that ship again." "Then I'll keep it in mind." We see a ship, which we know to be Kip Duron's, in the air as it lands right before Luke and Mara. Kip exits along with Han, and with a nervous expression on his face, bows before his master as Han is pushed forward. Luke looks to Han menacingly before turning to his apprentice. "You've done well, apprentice." "Thank you, master," Kip responds quickly. He rises to his feet and looks to the destroyer, and then to his master and Mara. "Did we get it?" The slight nod of the head from Mara is enough to confirm Kip's suspicions. He looks shocked, but also frightened. He too has no idea what it is. But the anticipation from Luke, and from what he had said, it only brought great terror. "I see you accomplished your mission as well, apprentice," Luke says as he pulls Han closer to him with the Force and looks him over. "Now, who are you exactly?" Han struggles for a bit, before realizing that it's impossible to fight this battle. Han Solo. Suddenly, he begins to strain as he feels Luke Skywalker inside his head. Luke smiles a wicked grin as he speaks. "Han Solo, wife of Leia Skywalker, father to 3, hero of the Rebel Alliance, and the first to make the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. Han nods with a struggle. "Yup, that's me all right." Luke can't help but cackle to himself as Mara and Kip both look at each other, somewhat uncomfortable. "This is too good. Well done, my apprentice. You've done better than you can possibly know." He turns to see another of his agents, bringing him another prisoner, who we see to be Lor San Tekka. Luke grins as he approaches the old man. "Finally, we get the chance to talk." "I'm not showing you where those things are," Tekka declares with determination in his voice. "They will only cause destruction and madness, and I will not allow it." Luke's grin fades, ever so slightly, as he turns away. He walks over to a very deep hole that has been dug into the ground, and we can see several dozen prisoners that Luke has captured just today alone. He pulls out some small device, and with the flick of a switch, it ignites a flame. "Their suffering is on your conscience, Tekka. Now where are they?" We see how horrified Tekka is with his options, but ultimately he chooses to stand his ground and refuses to tell Luke. The Dark Lord simply shrugs before dropping the flame down in the pit, as we hear the flames begin to erupt and the screams down below, as Han and Tekka look away while Kip and Mara look on in pity and sorrow. Han finally manages the courage to speak up. "So I guess I'm next?" Luke turns to Han with a sarcastic frown. "No, of course not you, Captain Solo. I have much more important plans for you." With a thrust of his hands, he fires out vicious Force lightning that engulfs Han as the captain begins to scream in agony, while Luke simply cackles on. We cut to Kashyyyk, as the Millennium Falcon returns back to the temple, where both Leia and Jacen are waiting. To their surprise, they only see Chewie and Anakin walk out. Leia is confused and quickly asks where Han and Jaina are. Chewie simply roars in panic as Anakin explains, "We found the base. Then this figure in black robes wielding a lightsaber attacked us. Dad stayed behind to hold him off, and Jaina went back after him." Leia's eyes widen in horror. The Sith were back again, and they had taken both her husband and daughter. She knew if Han was dead, then she would have sensed it, so he must be alive. But Force knew what kind of danger both of them were in. That was when Jacen piped in to argue. "This is why we can't be doing all this rebellion. Eventually they will catch up to us, and then we have to lose someone. It's the price of reckless choices." "That's enough, Jacen." Leia simply says coldly, "Get your brother inside." She leaves quietly, still stunned by what happened. Not only was Thrawn's empire at large, but now her own family was in the hands of the Sith. Likely her brother, who she hadn't seen yet since their fateful duel on Malachor almost 17 years ago. She entered her chambers and simply sat in thought. Getting the council together was likely the best place to start, but she just had to get her head around everything. The doors to the chamber opened as Ahsoka Tano walked in and took a seat next to her former student. "They're back," Leia nodded with a heavy sigh. "My brother, he has Han and Jaina. Then we need to know to find them," Ahsoka retorts. Leia gives her old master a sarcastic smirk. "Yeah, we need to know where the hell they are if we're even going to find them. We've done harder things. I'm sure we can find the Sith's location if we search hard enough." Ahsoka tries to reassure Leia. "For Han and Jaina's sake, we have to try." Leia nodded as she thought for a moment. Luke and Maul once created a criminal syndicate, the one we saw on Malachor. Perhaps that's a good place to start. Then let's set a course for Nar Shaddaa. That's where most syndicates hold their strength. Master and apprentice prepare to make their way back to the ship when they are met by Jacen, Anakin, and Chewbacca. You're going to try and find Dad and Jaina?" Anakin asked. "We're coming too." Leia gives her son a warm smile and a pat on the shoulder. "I know you care about your sister and father very much, but I can't risk your lives any more than theirs. Mom, if we're to be Jedi just like you, how are we to learn to be one without properly going on the experiences that make a Jedi what they are?" Anakin argued. "Didn't you say that you became a Jedi through the rebellion?" Leia sighed as she looked to Ahsoka, who nodded in agreement to the young Solo. "If we don't allow them to help with this, they will be forever held back. They need this, not just for Jaina and Han, but for themselves as well." Leia sighed, and with a simple motioned for Anakin and Jacen to follow Chewbacca onto the Millennium Falcon. We cut to Jaina as she lands her own ship on Ziost, seeing Luke's camp and temple in the distance. She senses her father as she sneaks around the base and maybe knocks out a few thugs while she does it. Finally, she stumbles on her father, who is badly burned by Force lightning and still shaking in agony. Han is tied up and fading in and out of consciousness. Jaina quickly unties her father's bonds and helps her down as Han sees his daughter. I told you to get your brother to safety." "I did. He and Chewbacca returned home and I came to rescue you," Jaina whispers. Han shakes his head in deep concern. "You shouldn't be here." Suddenly, Jaina can feel a sickly cold presence. There are whispers echoing through the atmosphere, and Jaina can feel her heart stopping with shock before suddenly she is met with the ignition of a crimson lightsaber blade. Jaina stumbled back and drew her training saber as she turned to face Kip Duron. Another figure would step next to his apprentice, Luke Skywalker, who wore a wicked grin upon his face. "My niece, I presume. So good to finally meet you." And that is where this part ends. It looks like we're back in the game now. Yeah, there was a certain scene that I tried to warn you about. It was kind of horrifying. The reason I wrote it was because I really wanted to show just how sadistic this version of Luke is. Like, this is the most evil variant of Luke you're ever going to get around. Wouldn't it be funny if we did like a multiversal story and we had Legends Luke Skywalker, canon Luke Skywalker, and this version of Luke Skywalker all meet each other? Dear God, that would be interesting. The good, the gray, and the bad. Because canon Luke is kind of neutral. He kind of gave up on the Force. Legends Luke is like the pure embodiment of the light side, and then this variant is the pure embodiment of the dark side. Yeah. So, I know both Galen and Anakin Skywalker haven't shown up yet, even though the previous story was literally about them. They're still alive. They're out there. The mystery is in finding them. And another thing to remember is that the previous story was Galen and Vader's. The original with Luke and Leia and Maul and Ahsoka, but it really was Galen and Vader's story for me. This story is a little more centered around Luke and Leia. So, but Galen and Anakin do still play very massive roles, which you will see later. The questions still continue. Why is Dash Rendar serving Luke even though he's also in communication with Leia? Did Jacen have another moment hinting at Darth Kaitis? What is Thrawn up to? What is this creature that Luke has that everybody's terrified of? Where are Galen and Anakin? And what's going to happen when Luke faces Jaina? Looks like you just got to tune in for episode 3 and the rest of the series. This is Dimon360, signing off. Peace.